I'm actually partway home from church, and I just decided to film this video. And my normal camera prop that I've been using is right on me because it's cold. So, yeah, you're not as balanced as I'd like, but whatever. Anyway, this is not going to be a regular feature. But one of the things I noticed after I filmed my video last week is I did not talk about, what was I going to say now? I did not talk about one of the really important parts of how I started outlining this 10th book. So that's something that really needed to be in there, maybe more than ranting about North Korea. So I'm going to talk about the outlining and planning part of the story, and then we'll it's like I said, I'm not planning a 45-minute epic. I'm already part of the way home from church. So anyway, I mentioned last week that one of the things I like to do is this 10th book, is I did a lot of brainstorming, writing things down. And I wrote down, story events that I want to have happen and whatnot. Anyhow, it was, when it came down to planning the story, I started writing a rough outline, but that wasn't working, because what you need to do is you need to balance your book. Now, I need to explain what that means, but if you want a reference, I would suggest looking at K.M. Weiland's book, which is not coming to me right now, and Larry Brooks has a book, something about story physics. Anyway, stories have a classic structure. Your English teacher probably taught it to you. And you would think that classic story structure would just come automatically to people, but it doesn't. I mean, I've always known it, but, and you'd like to think, well, my story's so good I can overcome this classic story structure. No, you can't. You better be pretty darn amazing and maybe hit culture at just the right time in order to pull that off. And probably you better have a name for yourself. So what you want to look for in your story when you start planning is three main pieces. They each occur about the same distance apart. And I'm going to butcher their names. Who cares? That's the concept that's important. You need one about the 25% point, one about the 50% point, one about the 75% point. So the 25% point one, which let's call it the first plot point. I think Larry Brooks calls it that. Your 25%, your first plot point at 25% needs to commit your hero to the story. So what I had to do is look through my book, all my notes and everything, and I thought, gee, Ian really has no reason to stay on this planet. If it were me, I'd just bail out and go back to space. So I had to do some things to commit him to the direction of the story. So that happens about the 25% point of the story. Now, up until then, you're basically getting to know the hero, you're getting to know the other characters, you're kind of learning the situation and whatnot. You do need to catch the reader's interest ahead of that. That's one of the areas I'm struggling with. This person I mentioned that's reading and giving me good comments mentioned that I'm this many chapters in, I still really don't know what your book's about. So, but the hero isn't really starting in on anything yet. He's just bumbling around and finding his way in his world. All right, so that's at the 25% point. Now we're going to move on. After he's committed, the hero is going to bumble around, trying to solve the problem, but not really succeeding. He's got to fail. Because if he's succeeding through this point, then, what's the point? But he's now on his course of action. He knows, yes, this is what I need to do. Excuse me. Sorry, I don't know. I seem to do this every time I do a video. Anyway, he needs to commit. He's committed. He's bumbling around, though. He's still not finding it. He's suffering defeat after defeat after defeat. Maybe a couple of victories so people don't just give up on it. Small victories, not big victories. Anyway, that's what's going to happen during that quarter of the book. Then you get to the 50% mark. At the 50% mark, our hero needs to commit, and finally things are going to start going his way. Now this isn't the climax yet, but now he is firmly committed to a plan, and he starts to carry out his plan. And through that next quarter of the book, that's what he does. But he still is defeated. He's no longer bumbling around. He's got his direction. He's got it all worked out, but he's not succeeding. And that brings you to the 75% point, where what your hero is going to need now is that's where he receives everything he needs to finally succeed. And then, of course, the last quarter of the book is him succeeding. I suppose you could call that 75% point the climax. Now, in between, and of course, when I say succeed, you may be writing a book where he does not succeed. 1984, the hero does not succeed. He's brainwashed and becomes one of the enemy, really. So you may be writing that kind of book. I don't see myself writing that kind of book right now, but anyway, that's what's supposed to happen at that point. Now, it may be somebody else succeeds because of what the hero's done, or it may be just total fail. But the point is, 75% chances where everything's fallen in place. Now, there are several beats that go with that. Like, I think on the first page, you need to give your reader some indication of what's coming, something to catch their interest. Now, I'm not good at first words or first lines, but you need something. And then as you get into it, somewhere I read about 10% of the way into the book, you need to give some kind of inciting incident that really gets the story going. My inciting incident is Ian gets beat up by the police, and you get to learn what kind of police they have there, and you get an insight into the government of that planet. But you need some kind of an inciting incident. Now, as you get in, I forget, there's something that's supposed to happen before this, the 50% point, but obviously it's not that important if I don't remember it. But the one that really is important, I think, because you see it in almost every movie and book I read or watch, right before the 75% point, I don't know if you can hear the washboarding, but holy cow. Right before the 75% point, what would that make it? 5/8, 7/8, something like that. No, not 7/8, that would be after. Anyway, let's go with 5/8. You need to have the hero at his absolute low point. He's been trying this plan, failing, not succeeding. He needs to be at his absolute... Oh, grouse. He needs to be at his... Sorry, there was a grouse running across the road. That probably didn't come across right. But he needs to be at his absolute low before he gets everything he needs to finally succeed. And then, of course, he goes on to succeed. So when I started outlining, it wasn't going so well. So what I did is I figured out, okay, what are going to be my events at each of those points? And then I structure the whole story around it. And I kind of wish for this novel maybe that I'd focused on just one character, but the other two really do add a lot, because you see a lot that's going on you wouldn't otherwise know about. So maybe there's some value to them, I don't know. And there's actually a couple stories going on, which I should probably talk about that too, how I'm going to layer them. So really the big layering story, kind of on the outside of it all, is Ian wants to know who his father is, his real father. He'd kind of like to know why, you know. And then, but of course, the real story, the meat of the story, is going to be his whole leading the revolution on the planet and so on. So we're going to have a story within a story. Now I'm going to pause the car up here and step out. I'm going to just film a little bit different countryside. I probably should have parked, well, here, I'll just park right here. It's an approach, and it's a gravel road, so who's going to care anyway? This is a little bit different scenery. This is not Badlands. This is prairie. You cannot see North Dakota's highest point from here, but the only reason you can't see it is because there's another high point in the way. So we'll step out of the car here. Switch cameras. Alright, here we go. So I'm not going to do a 360, just enough to give you an idea. Those are a little more impressive than they look. You can just see a lady's car off in the distance, give you some scale. I don't know if you can see, there's the hazy bit over there. That's really close to the highest point in North Dakota. And looking ahead, the road makes a T there. I go south. And yeah, the little town that I said is well kept is kind of hidden behind all those buttes. Alright, so anyway, English teachers probably don't like the terminology I just used there. But you want some kind of a basic story structure. And that's what this gave me. So I formed my outline around the basic story structure using all these random jottings and events that I wanted to have happen in the story. And it worked really well for me. I'll just tell you, usually it would take me about 2 years or 1 year, depending on the novel, to write a novel. This one, after all that planning and prep work, got written in about 3 months. Because I had an outline, I just had to put words to it. Now, where I've been running into trouble since then is the editing thing. First I thought, well, I'll edit it just by rewriting it with fountain pen. Well, that didn't work. So now I'm rewriting it by typing. And that's actually a lot better, I think. You know, first draft, do it by fountain pen. You slow down and you think. But it is slow. And if I'd like it published, nobody's going to read my handwritten scribbles. And even I have trouble reading my handwritten scribbles. And let me give you a little piece of advice if you ever do novel write. Date your pages. Because holy cow, I've got this stack of notebooks that I'll have to show you sometime. And I can't tell some of them which ones go with which draft because there's no dates on the pages. And it's just like, wow, that's so obvious. Oh, mud. There's supposed to be about 6 inches of snow here today. It's May 10th. They've already getting some down South Dakota. And it must have rained or snowed over here. It was actually a lot drier here than it was when I left home. When I left home, there was snow all over the ground. I got over here and there's nothing. So it must have just gone a little bit east. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, date every page. Every time you start a new page on a day. You know, if I set it down and pick it up later in the day or something, I'm not going to write a new date on. No. But if it's a new day and I started writing that day, that first thing I do is put a date on the page. I don't even need to mark where on the page I started. There's one guy, I can't remember his name. He's one of the, Neil Gaiman. I might have the first name wrong. Gaiman is his last name. I know that for sure. Anyway, apparently he switches colors. Like one day he'll write in blue, and next day he writes in black, or whatever it is he uses. So I don't do that. I pretty much write in black. When I was getting into trying out different inks, those pages got kind of multicolored. But I found I just really like to write in black. It just looks... It's writing. It's not trying to make it pretty or anything. I use a boring fine point pen, write in black. But anyway, that's what it just makes it easier when you go back now and say, okay, now I can set this in chronological order and find what's what and fix things up. Because some of the things I ran into, I was fixing in the third draft, like, ooh, whoops, I already fixed that. I just am looking at the first draft. So date your pages. Now when you start, I'm having a little trouble dividing it up by chapter, but that's something I can fix later. I do think a chapter should end on a little bit of a cliffhanger. Not a cliffhanger like the old serials in the old days in the movie theaters, but something to make the reader want to come back and read some more. It's probably exhausting to leave your hero or heroine in the lurch where they're about to die every single chapter. And a lot of books just aren't conducive to that. You know, romance novel, a lot of what that's going to be is just, oh, he doesn't love me now, or oh, I saw him with this new girl. You know, so I'm not writing a romance novel, but you see what I mean. It's more mild and not life-threatening, but some kind of a hook to make people say, oh, I got to come back and read that, or do like I did last night and stay up too late reading, and then you're really tired in the morning. You can probably see bags under my eyes. And yes, I still do that. You'd think at 39 I'd have outgrown it, but nope, I'm still a kid about that stuff. But in fairness, it was the weekend, and I wasn't preaching in church today, so I guess I could sit in the pew and go. So, yeah, see, I'm rambling again. I need to do one of these when I'm really well rested, because I don't ramble as much when I'm really well rested, or if I have a script. Anyway, I'm going to pause and do a little bit more landscape here, because why not? Just sitting in the car filming this. This is the view over my dashboard right now. Hoping nobody comes up. So, are you broken down? No. And some of it's covered up, but those buttes are hiding the town. Not my town, but the town I'm going to go through here. And off that way is a little bit more buteness. And there's a road that really winds through the country over there. It's kind of a fun alternate drive home, but not when the roads are the way they are today. All right, sit you down again. I really do always wear a seatbelt. It's kind of a habit for me, and I actually lost a student once and almost lost another one at the same time because neither one was wearing a seatbelt. They were driving too fast for conditions on a road a lot like this, actually, and the one that was driving lost control, and they went into a ditch. Her passenger pitched right out through the front windshield and was killed instantly. The other girl was stopped because her foot somehow got caught on the steering wheel, and that's the only thing that saved her life. But it's one of those things. They would have been banged up if they'd been wearing a seatbelt, but there really wouldn't have been severe damage. And you look at the statistics, and there's more reasons to wear a seatbelt than not to wear one. So I always wear one. That's just a habit from way, way back, but I think that's a good habit to have. Yeah, there's a lot of mud in this road. I'm going to go around that patch. The nice thing with a gravel road is if there is mud, you can go around it. There's not traffic coming the other way usually. If this was really muddy, I wouldn't be filming this because I'd have to concentrate on keeping the car going straight. Yes, that sounds like I'm talking about a third world country, but if you've grown up around gravel roads, you know what I mean. Anyway, I was talking about the writing. Oh yeah, the writing. So anyway, I have another suggestion when you start typing, and I'm probably going to pick up more suggestions as I do more typing. Because, I've tried typing before, but I've never written one that I felt was good enough to type. And this is the first one and he wants to fly into the windshield. Pheasant this time, not a grouse. Oh, he just stood there stupidly. All right, well, I won't complain about that, but they'll take out a windshield. I've seen it. This is horrible. If you're here sitting beside me, you'd probably understand why I get distracted. There's just a lot going on. Anyway, when I type, one of the things I'm doing now, I realized I want to keep the older drafts. Now, the computer dates files, so I don't have to worry about that. It's just, I have an Apple. I'm pretty sure Windows machines date them too. But what I am doing is I'm calling it V2 Chapter 1. I'm going to keep my edits because that way I'll be able to look back and say, oh, I think I need to change that back. And I'll have a record. I'd actually like some suggestions maybe on how I could better keep track of my versioning. Some software, not the software I use, has utilities for tracking versions. I use a program called Lyx, L-Y-X. It's great for a lot of the things I do. Maybe not the best for novel writing, but it sure makes them look good. And I've got the feeling, just because of the quality of my writing, that this may end up being a self-published thing anyway. And it's awesome software if I decide to self-publish. It's pretty easy to self-publish nowadays, so I don't mind going that route. Anyway, back to the versioning. So I'm keeping better track of the versions. I'm not just going to erase one file and save the new changes over it. And there's a utility in there also for it's called To Do. It's a package that you put into the program. If you know Lix, it's a LaTeX package. Lix is based on LaTeX, which is a typesetting programming language. And ooh, green. Yeah, it's greening up. That's pretty exciting. I don't think you could even see it. Oh, there's snowflakes. Probably not good enough you can see them with the video yet, but yeah, it's starting. It's supposed to start in earnest about 1 o'clock today. Right now it's 11:30. Anyway, we're driving through a whole bunch of buttes that are really close to the road. And it twists and winds between them. You know, a lot of places in North Dakota it's very flat. Here, not so much. Here it's very windy and up and down and rolling country. You know, it's not mountainous. Anybody from like Colorado or Utah is going to be like, yeah, that's flat. But for North Dakota, this is nice. I like the Southwest. We even have forests here. There's north of the church. There's even a spot where there was a forest fire. First time I drove into that, I was like, what? In North Dakota? But yeah, it was a huge forest fire too. Pretty devastating. And it's a natural forest. It's not one that people planted. I mean, it's an honest to God ponderosa pine forest that had a forest fire. So someday maybe we'll travel up there. I get bored when I drive. I actually hate driving a lot. I do it because, you know, otherwise I'd be stuck at home all the time. But I don't like to do it, so I don't travel as much as I should. I like to travel. Sometimes I like to get out and photograph, so I might take the iPad along and babble a little and show off as I travel this summer and take some pictures of some of these fun places. Now we're coming down into that town. We're about to get to where the pavement starts, but I'm going to stop again, give you another view from the back of this town. It doesn't look the best from the back, but just give you a clue where I'm at. This is going to be so many videos when I go to edit. Put it in neutral. Okay, so I'm headed down that road. There's a farm down there that turns to pavement just past that bend. And then here is the back side of the town. You can just barely see the school there. It's the red thing. Hay bales, grain bins. You know, it's a small town. It's very agricultural. Okay. Get this party started here. Try not to stall it. Alright, so anyway, driving into the back of this town. Totally on a gratuitous note, I'm just going to say, if you do photographs, one of the best suggestions I ever got for naming photographs is put them in folders, but then give each folder a date and a name of the event. Now when you do the date, there's a specific way to do it that gets them in order. You write 2015, that's the year, and that'll take care of you if you live 1,000 years too. Then an underscore, and then you put the month. Like right now I'd be doing 05. So that gets all your months together after it organizes them by year. And then an underscore, and then the date. Like today is the 10th, so I'll say 2015 underscore 05 underscore 10. Putting that O in there helps put them in order also. Then I usually put the name of the event, like Mound Church Memorial Day, or something. And then it's really easy to find your files. They're always in order. You're not searching through. If you can, you should tag them with keywords also. Oops. On the coat, you don't slide like that, but you're sitting on top of a notebook. Really cheap notebook, but yeah. So we're coming into this town from the backside. But anyway, that was just a suggestion for how you put in photographs. It really made my life a lot easier, because I used to just say, oh, basketball game against Beulah. Well, okay, that worked for 1 year. Then we play Beulah again the next year. Then what? Well, I don't know. Exactly. So, we're driving through this town. I don't know if I dare do this, but I'm going to try. Anyway, this is the back side of the town. It's just a residential street. This is one of the streets that's paved. It goes up past the school. A lot of the streets are not paved. I'm holding this in my hand, kind of like I'd hold a cell phone. See, unpaved street. I just passed another one on the other side, which would have been a better picture, but such is life. Anyway, coming up on the turn. This is the main street because they want us traveling. Oh, somebody's got a little punch bug. This is Main Street of the town. We'll kind of hide its name there, so we'll look at pavement for a second. Anyway, that's Main Street of the town. Old fire hall. A lot of rough up and downs here. There used to be a hospital at the top floor of that building a long time ago. This used to be a grocery store, but it's closed. It's been closed for several years. I don't think it'll ever reopen. A bar, post office, Legion, and we're through the town. It's a town of about 150 people, so, you know, don't expect much. All right, tracks, which sometimes the train actually parks there, which is really annoying. Now I'm going to press stop again. Okay, I'm out on the highway now. The rain's coming down in earnest. It's, like I said, it's probably going to turn to snow again. It was snowy up there in the Buttes. It'll probably be snowy down here. But, yeah, it should be a fun afternoon. But, you know what? May 10th, I am not going to shovel because I walk to work, and you know what? It doesn't matter if it's snow. If I have to wade through the snow for a day or two, it's not going to stick around on May 10th. And that gets me out of mowing the lawn for a day or two because I have to wait till the snow melts and it all dries up anyway. So, what I might do, I might show you just Main Street of my hometown. My town is quite a bit larger than that little one there, probably 10 times larger actually. It's first time I drove out here, it was before I even knew I was going to apply for a job here. I used to work more in the central part of the state, which I like a lot. That part of the state's got a lot of lakes in it, very rolling. Not as rolling as here. You don't have the buttes and the badlands, but rolling and lakes, because you don't have lakes around here. You don't have the sloughs, except in the very early spring. You just don't have the water here. Central part of the state, sometimes roads even flood. In fact, I was surprised one year, there was water across the interstate, sort of near Medina, if you know where that is. And yeah, I'd never seen water go across the interstate before. So I always thought those were super well built, but I guess they just didn't take into account how much water they're getting then. But I always liked central North Dakota. But since I've come out here, I do miss the water. But there's other things out here I like, and I'm pretty happy in the school. I think if I were to find another school, I'd go to something the same size. As much as I really like being in the small schools, as far as the control over the entire science program, the bad part about being in a really small school like that is, too, where one thing, you have not a lot of kids, so there's a risk your school may close down. Your classes can be very small, which I mentioned before. I don't enjoy that. And there's sometimes not a lot of money in these small schools, so then you're not making money, you don't have money to buy lab equipment. So that, all in all, that's bad. And then the fact that you're teaching 6 different classes in a day is just kind of an overwhelming amount of preps. Honestly, it takes more time for me to prep for a class than it does to correct the work from a class. I just, you know, if you're doing it right, you need to spend your time prepping. And I don't like to correct a lot of busy work and stuff. I don't like correcting at all, actually. But, you know, if I'm going to give the kids stuff to do, it's got to be something there's a reason to do it, not just because, well, I better give them homework so they don't think I'm an easy teacher. No, there's got to be a reason for it. If there's no reason to give the homework, don't give it. So, Anyway, so if I end up in a new school being about this size, I don't want to get too much bigger either, because I like the smaller size where I actually know the kids. You know, we have, I think our biggest class right now is 45 students. That's small enough. You've got two sections. You have and it's two sections of a decent size, not the micro sections. And you can get to know them to a certain extent. You know, it's not like you're their buddy or anything, but if you're teaching them, you better not be their buddy. But it's big enough that you actually have enough kids to have a conversation, some interest, and some diversity. And North Dakota struggles with diversity anyway. Editorial comment there. So, another nice thing with a town this size, some of them are shrinking. But right now, people are actually moving to the state, and a lot of the places they move are to towns that have a little bit in them. And you know, the town I live in, not amazing, but it has a decent main street. It has all the basics that you would need. Not everything you would want. You know, don't go looking for anything exotic. And you know, there's two grocery stores. Hopefully, you don't desperately want lots of exotic fruits and vegetables, because they don't have them. They do have fresh fruit and vegetables. We have a Hispanic population, so we actually have mangoes, and avocados, and things you don't always see in a small town grocery store. I'm hoping we also, there's folks open an Oriental restaurant, so I'm really hoping they make a go of it, and then they get some more kind of different foods into the grocery store just because they're here. Maybe wishful thinking, I don't know. I was talking to one of my students the other day about the restaurants up in Dickinson, which is a city nearby, and he really, you know, Applebee's and the basic chain restaurants are all he's ever been to up there, and there's some really good stuff up there. There's two Mexican restaurants. There's a Thai restaurant, which I don't know how authentic it is. You know, it's in North Dakota, but the lady is not Taiwanese. She is from Thailand. Doesn't speak the greatest English, so I'm thinking it's reasonably authentic. It's good. There's a Chinese restaurant. There used to be two, but well, those things happen. So there's, anyway, some diversity. And I just think it's sad when you limit yourself to the chain restaurants. It's just so exciting to have something different. Like I'm probably going to cook a chicken stir fry for lunch today, since we didn't really have anything that great at church. So I'm rambling. I guess I'm not really talking about my book anymore. So I'm just going to shut this off. Like I said, I didn't think this would be long, and this is why a driving video is not going to be a weekly thing, because I'm just not interesting enough to talk for 45 minutes every single Sunday about something. I would start getting into politics or things that make people mad. You know, I don't care what I say. Eventually I'm going to make somebody mad. I'm sure last week when I said those things about North Korea, somebody said, well, sounds a lot like you don't like North Korea. What's wrong with you? I'm sure there's somebody that was offended by that. It doesn't matter if I talk extremely liberal, extremely conservative, very middle of the road. Whatever I say is going to offend somebody, and it's not that kind of channel. It's a fountain pen channel, just kind of a fun general interest channel, and it's not here to get people riled up or excited. So as far as the channel goes, I'm running low on pens to review. Jordan Schneidt has actually volunteered to send me a pen or two, so I'm going to take him up on that. A couple of them are pens I actually wanted to try, but wasn't going to buy to try them, because I'm pretty settled on the pens I like. You're going to see some ink and paper reviews. I know some people have asked for paper reviews. I just haven't done it. I will. I have a week and 3 days of school left. So guess who's going to have time again to do stuff like that? This person ahead of me is driving really slow, really annoying, and they don't stay at the same speed. They speed up and they slow down. It's just stay consistent. It's not slippery. It's just wet. But a state license plate too. But anyway, so I'm going to do some paper reviews. There will be pen reviews still. There's a few I haven't reviewed yet, more than a few. And I'm sure I will not going to be done buying fountain pens, but I might. It's slowed down a lot over this past year, and it's going to slow down even more. You know, and I have a budget for it, so that money just goes in. I may end up buying a nice pen next Christmas. I had the money saved once for Nakai and couldn't bring myself to spend it. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. I may not spend that money after all. But I'm just looking at the what am I trying to say? The class of pens I've been buying. I'm just running out of ones I'm actually interested in buying. There's a whole bunch I'm interested in trying, but none that I actually want to buy to try. Because when I buy, it is actually the idea that, oh, I'd kind of like to own that. And then I thin the herd. I'm learning. Every time I thin the herd, I look at patterns. I think, okay, yeah, I know what I didn't like. You know, right now I'm thinking about thinning my herd of noodlers. Now, noodlers is still going to be my favorite pen. I love them, but I don't need as many as I have. So let's thin them out. The TWSBI, I mentioned that TWSBI 580 is going to get thinned out of the herd. I like the aluminum one better. Writes better. Looks better. I have, I don't know, my Jinhausers. One I might keep to do my ink reviews, actually, and you'll see that when I do my first. I'm going to be doing a review really soon of the different Goulet nibs and comparing their widths and stuff. You'll see that pen, and I think you'll see why I want to use that pen for my ink reviews. It kind of makes sense once you see the review. But Jinhao just isn't exciting me. I did really like the looks of that great big yellow one we came out with on the Goulet website. Goulet is going to start carrying a cross. I used to own a cross. I got rid of it. I have no desire to buy a new one. I did own I've owned two Parkers. I got rid of them. No desire to own another one. You know, and it's funny because when I first got back into this, my thought was, oh, maybe I'll end up buying a Parker Sonnet and a Parker, what's the big one, Dual Fold. But I never did. So, anyway, but paper reviews for sure. I was using the stone paper for what I thought would be like a nice little pocket notebook. And oh my gosh, do I hate that notebook a lot. You wait till you see it. I wish I could get feel across it in the video because, yeah, it's just like somebody slimed the paper. It's horrible. And the ink takes forever to dry. So I have that. I have a Exocomta and something else, Leuchter, and a couple Japanese brands. I really like the Japanese notebooks. But now I'm coming into town. Now this is where the highway goes through town. It's not that interesting. I became church treasurer about 2 weeks ago because the guy that was doing it is he's cutting back. He's 97. He's allowed to cut back finally, but he's cutting back, and that's one of the things he wanted to cut back on. So now I have to make deposits and stuff. Sit after church, count the collection. You know, our collection will never support a full-time pastor on that, and we're lucky to have a pastor who has a job because we couldn't even support a part-time pastor. We're just, you know, people talk about these rich churches, not us. I mean, you saw last week, we don't even have indoor plumbing or running water of any kind at the church. We didn't get electricity till the 50s, and it was put in by people from the church, although we did rewire it. When we started smelling burning wires when we turned the lights on, we kind of thought, no, it's time to just bite the bullet and spend the money. So anyway, I'm going to press pause here, and I'll switch to the outside camera. And if there's not too many cars on Main Street, I might just give you a look up Main Street in my town. This look down the highway here, not many towns look good from the highway, and this town is no exception. Like I said, the first time I drove through this town, I just said, ew, because it's not. This is not an attractive town. I like it. I'm glad I live here, but really not attractive. It's very industrial and just kind of slapped together. It's the snowflakes though. So here is a quick look up Main Street. Maybe not. There we go. A little bit more going on. City Hall, where I'm about to pay my water bill. More streets. Grain elevators. Okay, I know that was quick, but trying to not give away too many identifying landmarks. But I'm headed home now. I just stopped at the bank, dropped off my deposits, and yes, my window does not roll down, so I don't, well, it's Sunday, I guess. Well, I'd still use the deposit window, wouldn't I? Yeah, so I guess it doesn't matter, but my window doesn't roll down, and it's so narrow in there, it's kind of hard to open the car door, so I just park and I walk up to the drive-up and drop off my money. So, yeah, and I had a deposit of my own to drop off, so accomplished two things. Driving past our gigantic, oops, why did I turn the turn signal on? I just went straight. Confused somebody here. Anyway, drive residential neighborhood. I never drive up this street. I'm trying to think. I think there's some dead ends here. Yeah, it does, but that's a T, so I can turn. So I guess I'll turn. And it's funny, you know, it's not that big of a town, even by most standards, but there's just certain parts I never visit, and this is one of them. I'd like to go over it. I should go over sometime, see how the hospital construction's going. There's a new motel going in. That's good, because I think our town needed something like that. And I am actually going to have to wait for a car here. So, I'm sorry how this video turned out. If you've been listening this far, congratulations. Not a big talker sometimes. I mostly just wanted to get in those plot points. And I might put Amazon links in. Ooh, sorry, somebody's doing some work here. There's a whole pile of junk. I've heard this house, the inside, the owner it's a new owner, was kind of a hoarder. I think the new owners are clearing it out. But anyway, I was just going to talk about the plot points, but then I got rambling about just about everything under the sun. And yeah, it looks like most of the snow that fell here this morning is melted except what's sitting on the cars. But like I said, it sounds like we've got a good 5 or 6 inches to look forward to tonight, so that'll be special. And I'm back to my frosty margarita home. I don't know, it's days like this when I'm so glad I painted it that color. You know, in the winter you'd walk home and it's all dreary and gray, and you walk up to this bright green house. There's just something about that. And of course a day like today, where it's dripping and will be snowing, that's kind of nice too. I would like to see more houses painted bright colors because it looks nice. So, thank you for watching this far, and we'll see you later.